at you. We have decided we want to do all of our shows in a British accent.
Keeping with the British news, I think we should try at least.
I don't think that we can do it. I'm going to mess up somewhere in here. I'm not quite sure, but today is February 3rd, 2017, and I want you to take a moment and just look at the faces that Leah's about to show you. They all have several different personalities. We have the happy guy. We have the guy that's kind of in shock. This guy looks bored. This guy looks very angry, and this guy looks constipated. So tell us who these incredibly different people are. What are they?
Great, I just did his face.
Okay, the constipated guy, can you get him in X-Lax? Maybe. All right. This is a serious subject. Can we get back? It's very serious.
I can't. Okay, maybe if I get on my accent now. Shouts of Allahu Akbar in court as Muslim sex gang sentenced for child rape. Now, members of a Muslim rape gang shouted Allahu Akbar, my God is greatest, in court Thursday as they were jailed for raping, drugging and abusing girls aged 11 and 13 in the town of Rotherham. Now,
I would not have just jailed them. I would have cut off their hands, cut off their wiener, and then cut off their head. All right, sorry. Keep going.
This seems like the town of Rotherham. We have in the United States not heard very much about it, but there is an underground, what do you call it, an abuse scheme.
Cartel.
Yes, but this, I'm going to finish with, I'm switching up accents, you keep yours.
No, it's okay. We can go back to Leah Michelle. We're going to
You
confuse
were really
the people.
funny.
You're all gonna go. Can you guys just stay British? American Leah and Michelle are not friends.
I was switching into like some sort of French thing. The 6 member given sentences between 10 and 20 years and totaling, I like Michelle's sentence better, and totaling more than 80 years on Thursday for the crimes in the South Yorkshire town. The horrific crimes only began to come to light when South Yorkshire police began investigating the sexual exploitation of young girls in Rotherham in 2014 after allegations of a cover-up were exposed in the press. Now, this Rotherham abuse scandal actually came out in 2014, and I believe there was like 1,400 girls. But this article here from just a few months ago saying that the grooming of young girls by gangs of predominantly Kashmiri men is still occurring in an industrial scale in Rotherham because authorities are failing to tackle an organized child sex crime racket. An investigation has discovered. The Express UK has pieced together shocking testimony from victims, campaigners, and local residents in a large-scale investigation series being revealed through this week. They all told us how police and the local council is still failing thousands of vulnerable girls. It reveals how organized criminal gangs of pedophiles are still using the town as their own personal fiefdom, peddling underage girls for sex as part of a multi-million-pound crime empire. The men are predominantly from the city of Mimpur in the disputed region of Kashmir on the border between Pakistan and India. A lot of these girls are Pakistani girls, some of them are Asian girls. Today, an investigation by this website, this was a few months ago, lifts the lid on the shocking scale of abuse still going on. In 2014, they found this was going on. They really have not cleaned it up.
Right.
And just recently, these men, this is the article that just came out, these men actually shouted, Allahu Akbar, my God is greatest, while they were being sentenced. Okay, so just to let you know, this is, it's just beyond comprehension. The Professor Alexis J's astonishing probe revealed at least 1,400 girls were groomed by sex gangs between 1997 and 2013 and unearthed a series of scandalous failings by local authorities. And the reason they didn't report was because they didn't want to be racist, right?
And that's what we were talking about in other segments earlier today about the sanctuary cities where they can get off scot-free for different things like driving drunk or possessing marijuana, things like that, where you just get...
Right, exactly. And a follow-up report said they were adequately tackling this, but testimony pieced together from independent sources paints a starkly different story. A number of people who gave evidence to Professor Drew's inquiry, expressed open dismay at his findings and told us the grooming of girls is as bad now as it has ever been.
So in 2 years of doing something, they've done nothing. And what's so cool is if you watch our other segment in California, they're doing stuff. So these people could take a lesson or two from the LA.
But there's
task
so much
force.
in the European Union. You see the vehement anger against Donald Trump for trying to vet and everything.
Right.
That anger is against reporting anything negative that a refugee or an immigrant would do.
Right.
So, and they're angry at the police and the local council workers for not doing anything. One victim, who they'll call Ellie, said the raping of white girls by these men is still going on. Some I know have had to wait months before they're even asked to give a statement by the police.
Wow.
So you go in and you try to tell them your story, and the police are like, whatever.
You're just another in hundreds and thousands of people that this is happening to.
Right. There's an investigation that's been opened up called Operation Stovewood. Is currently probing more than 7,000 lines of inquiry.
Wow.
But Ellie said, what have the National Crime Agency been doing for the last 18 months? They were given £10 million. No arrests yet. They got like these 6 Pakistani men.
Wow.
Out of all this. They're feeling desperate and disheartened. Another girl going under the pseudonym of Lizzie said, I know a few girls who have come forward recently and been told they are being racist. And I know a lot that won't come forward. And to be fair, I can't blame them. Nothing has changed. Not the slightest thing has changed. Lizzie was one of a number of testimonies that Express UK heard detailing how abuse is going on in plain sight. You can research it. There's a lot out there, but nobody's actually doing anything.
And you know what we've actually found, and this is across the board, and it's a worldwide epidemic of
sex trafficking, the Podesta, the WikiLeaks, Pizzagate.
Right.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, when somebody is raped, more often than not, our society, this is one area, and I'll give you this one area where men, often in a twisted, some men view it, and it's just not that big of a deal. Right. And they don't address it, and you don't take it seriously. We have known of cases in the United States where the police literally do nothing. Right. In cases of rape.
So going back to the article that just came out in Breitbart, now it's talking about the 2014 report. Found that more than 1,200 girls, I read 1,400 girls from Rotherham have been raped, trafficked, and abused by mostly Muslim gangs. The abuse was allowed to go on for around 10 years before authorities were scared of because of the accusations of racism.
Because a lot of you might wonder, how can this happen? If there really were a bunch of women that were getting raped in mass, we would know about it, or the authorities would come and stop it. But listen, it's just like at Berkeley, where we saw those police completely back off. Right. All right? That's all they can do. They can only do what they're told to do.
So out of all these that they've been found the victims, these are the only people that have really been jailed.
Wow. 6 out of hundreds or thousands, I'm sure.
8 men of Muslim, Pakistani origin were sentenced for crimes in November.
Okay, cool.
A further 6 men and 2 white women were found guilty in October. And then these guys were in court just recently.
Did that say white men?
2 white women.
You said white women were arrested?
Yeah.
For rape?
Well, for part of the
being
gang.
Part of the gang. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So then I wanted to play a little testimony from this Pakistani girl who
a week
came out
now
of it.
since the shocking revelations of the large-scale child abuse in Rotherham.
And she is so stunning. Look at her.
The whole scandal is still shrouded in a fog of secrecy. More than 1,400 young girls were abused over a period of 16 years, mainly by men from the town's Pakistani community, a community where any hint of abuse was routinely underreported, surrounded by a culture of silence and the fear of family.
Culture of silence.
But one woman has found the courage to speak out. Rizwana Bashir says deeply entrenched cultural taboos kept her quiet when she was abused in her hometown of Skipton. That's about 60 miles from Rotherham. She was just 10. She later overcame her family's reluctance to take her
this has been
abuse
going
to
on
court
for
and
years.
saw him jailed. She went on to found a travel company based in San Francisco, from where she joins us tonight.
That's the kind of refugee
Can we just start
we want,
with the report, which suggested of these 1,400 girls, nearly all of them were white. And there seemed to me, when I was in Rotherham last week, real evidence of underreporting by Pakistani girls. Do you believe it is for Pakistani girl victims now to have the courage to do what you've done?
Yes, I think it is. Actually, when you look at the Rotherham report, Professor Joe did actually take notice of the fact that there was this huge underreporting that was going on of abuse within Pakistani communities. In fact, local women were actually reporting the fact that there were abusers and gangs that were waiting for Pakistani heritage girls outside their schools. She cites the fact that the UK Muslim Women's Network actually has a report on grooming and prostitution of Muslim women that went on all over the UK. And the cases there were incredibly brutal. These women were raped, they were burnt with cigarettes, they had the same kind of abuse that the girls in Rotherham had. And so there is just this massive underreporting that's going on with Pakistani victims. And there are a few factors that are involved in that. The first is just that you have these communities that are pretty deprived. There's a lack of education, they're deeply patriarchal, they're often misogynistic, and when you have all of these kind of this situation combined with a huge issue around shame, victim shaming and blaming, which means that a family will ostracize their child if she speaks up and says, I was abused. These factors mean that no Asian women really feel comfortable coming forward. Even for me, it took 10 years of being outside of the community to actually be able to come back and say, I was abused.
Was that the key, that you were outside the community? I mean, you amazingly went from school in Skipton to be president of the Oxford Union, and you were right out there. What actually persuaded you then to go after your abuser?
Well, I never talked to anyone about it until I was in my 20s. Such is the nature of this shame that you're kind of quite paralysed by it. You don't want to talk to anyone about it. And so I didn't acknowledge it even to myself until I was in my 20s. And then at that point, I really wanted to go and do something about it, but I was actually very aware of the impact that it would have on my family. I was aware that I had a sibling that lived in the community, that her kids were going to be affected, that people were going to be ostracising and shunning her. And so that was one of the reasons that it took me a little longer to be able to come forward, and I was able to get her on board and come together to be able to testify against it. My parents were still challenged against it. They didn't want me to go forward. But if I'd lived within that community knowing that they were going to shun me, that they were going to blame me, they were going to say that I was a liar, it would have been a lot harder. And I have a huge amount of respect for those.
I think you argue that, in fact, your parents, for no fault of their own, but in many ways represent exactly what is going on in that British Pakistani community, that there is this utter reluctance to confront what is clearly obviously going on.
There is, and I think that the fact that there is this whole taboo around shame for victims means that you just perpetuate the abuse.
Yeah, so you see that she's talking about the Pakistanis. These guys are of the same kind of Muslim faith and everything like that and background, and just the fact that it's so prevalent there.
Right.
And Britain has become overrun with criminals that
and that ties into our segments with Nigel Farage, where he's saying enough is enough is enough. We've been letting these people in, and they are taking over, and they're raping our women.
These are like no-go zones where you can't even really go there. They will, harass you and things like that.
And there's been a big misnomer. We've even had some really good fans of ours that just don't quite understand that the Muslim faith is not a faith of peace. Anytime you put the word faith in front of something, it sounds like it could be peaceful, and it's the media that spreads that lie. It is not a religion of peace. It's just not.
Okay, well, we could go on and on and on about that.
Well, that's why this happens.
Right. This is
why they're allowed to do it and get away with it, and why it's perpetuated and encouraged.
In the Muslim community, if you are accused, if you have been raped or molested, you're blamed. You're the one that's going to go to jail.
And you're not allowed to say anything. You just, if it happens to you, oh well.
You have to have 4 male witnesses.
Yeah, like you're going to get that. All right, you guys. So this is Leah Michelle, Resistance Chicks, signing off, where it is not a conspiracy theory if it's the truth. And this is in our truth category for sure, 100%. Right. How can you not take her word for it? I mean, she just was very well spoken. I'm very impressed with her. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Mass Faith 3 and Resistance Chicks. We just launched our Facebook page. Come and find us there so we can interact with you guys on a more personal basis. We love you. God bless, and we'll talk to you soon.
Cold all alone, no place for home every day, so afraid you call my name.